It's been really interesting in the past, like, few months, but especially the past few weeks, if you're paying attention to, like, and I don't blame you if you're not, but what's going on in alt-right Twitter spaces, because you have all these women who are explicitly alt-right, explicitly, like, neo-Nazi sympathizers, trad wives, whatever. And they're finally coming to terms with the fact that, like, the movement is being mean to them. The alt-right movement finally has power over our democracy, and they're sort of working out the kinks of how to, like, mobilize fascism nationwide. So they have the Oval Office, they have power, and they're now kind of looking at these, like, female content creators and female influencers and just being like, okay, it's time to get back to the kitchen now. It's time to take your place as a woman and start having white children to advance the white race. And these women are, like, almost like, oh, like, shocked. Like, I thought I was the exception. I didn't think the leopards would eat my face. Ultimately, the men that propped them up and supported them when they felt like they just needed to get the message out, now that they're in power and now that these, like, alt-right groups have control, they're like, okay, like, now it's time to do what we actually mean to do, which is, like, suppress female voices and minority voices, and, like, you should just be, like, submissive to your husband, and you shouldn't have a job, and you shouldn't have rights, and you shouldn't be able to vote, and you should stay in the kitchen. And they're like shocked by this.
What does this fictional character and this real life woman have in common? They both demonstrate how people can be both enforcers and victims of oppressive systems. So if you didn't know, Selena Joy is a character in The Handmaid's Tale. This is a picture of her from the TV series. And she was one of the main architects of Gilead. Gilead is a theocratic, totalitarian society. It's built on strict biblical interpretations, very rigid gender roles, where men have all the power and women are virtually stripped of, like, all rights. There's a lot more to it, but I don't want to spend that much time on it. Selena Joy is the wife of a high-powered commander in Gilead. So because she is married to someone who is high in power in this society, she has greater rights than other women in the society, yet she still does not have full rights. And her role really serves to exemplify the hypocrisy in the society, because she ironically becomes trapped in the very society that she helped build. I just saw so many parallels of her character when I watched the second episode of Katie Miller's podcast. Yes, this is my hyperfixation. I don't know why. I'm just fixated. And I actually talked about this in my recap of the episode, but I actually wanted to dive a little bit deeper and actually show you the clip. So this next clip is Sage Steele talking about how when she was just starting out as an ESPN reporter, she really wanted this beat, but her boss said if she wanted this specific beat, she would have to show up on day 1 of training camp. However, this would mean that she would have to leave her newborn baby at 8 weeks.
I was like, okay, you do what you have to do. And I'll never forget driving away from my little house in Silver Spring. My husband at the time, he was holding her. Like, she's this big. She was born, she was 6 pounds, 15 ounces, so she was teeny. And he was holding her here, and he took her little hand and went like that and waved goodbye. And I was like, I drove around the corner and just sobbed. I'm like, what am I doing? Plus, people don't realize you have a baby. It takes 10 months to cook. It takes a full year for your body to get back hormonally if it's ever the same. And so I was 8 weeks in and I had trouble nursing. So I went to training camp, and in between practices, I'm like pumping, you know.
That's like a nursing room, like on the sidelines.
Oh, of course not. But that's like liquid gold. You never let go of that breast milk, right? And then I had ice packs. It was just technology for that is much different now than it was too. So I think I look back and I'm so sad that that's how the corporate world was, at least especially in sports media, you know. And I'm sad that I kind of accepted it and didn't push back.
In that clip, like, she was upset about having to leave her newborn baby to the point where she was like, I wish that I would have pushed back against the company and said, no, I'm not going to do that, and I still want this beat. Right? Like, she's actively, consciously aware of the fact that, like, this was a very unfair system for a woman, and, like, she's essentially being punished for having a child. Like I said in my recap, like, she has all the ingredients for a progressive thought. Like, truly, like, they are on a very progressive track right now. Until
I don't think it's very similar for a lot of women who go back to work very quickly. Like Caroline Levitt went back to work after, like, I think less than a week.
I think she said 9 days, yeah, but that was her choice. I mean, she's made that clear too.
Yeah.
And I totally respect that, right? Back then, I had no choice. Sometimes people look at some of the systems in, parts of Scandinavia, it's words like, you get a year off and we deserve that and more. At the end of the day, from a business perspective, it is taxing on those businesses. And so
that's what, like, American culture is, right? American culture is how you work hard to be able to get to the next point in your career. So what you're saying is you work really hard to be able to achieve getting to be on the Ravens sidelines, and it's like you're not going to give it up for anything. And it's unfortunate that, like, that's the hand you were dealt at the time. But, like, your career got to the pinnacle of where you wanted to be because you worked really hard every day.
You literally almost can see in real time where they realize that they're getting on this progressive track and they have to pivot, and it's very disjointed, right? Like, you were just saying, like, how fucked up it was that you had to leave your 8-week-old baby. You were crying, leaving your 8-week-old baby to secure this beat so that you could further push your career. And they basically just pivoted into, like, yeah, well, like, you had to make that huge sacrifice for your job. Like, you worked hard to do that. And it's like, no, like, this wasn't like, hey, she was putting in 80-hour work weeks. She had to leave her newborn daughter during a very integral time for a mother and baby to be connected. And it just shows how quickly she went from being oppressed to the oppressor, right? Because she just quickly jumped in. Well, it's so burdensome for these companies to have to deal with women who are having babies. Like, I totally get it from a business perspective. Meanwhile, she was just telling us that she was sobbing, having to leave her 8-week-old child, and that she wished she said something. Like, it makes no sense. But it does make sense when you look at the systems that they are upholding, right? MAGA. MAGA is on a war path against DEI and ensuring that pregnant women and mothers aren't punished in their careers for literally creating life is a DEI initiative. So what do? Do they stand up and protect other women because they themselves have also experienced this unfairness in the workplace? No, they tell moms to fuck off, fuck your maternity leave, fuck any job protection, because they have to uphold these systems because that's how they keep the lights on and pay the bills as right-wing grifters. And then they have the audacity to tell us that they are the party that's fighting for families.
You know, Serena Joy is really just an analogy for every trad wife / MAGA wife you have ever seen. These are women who placate men, exist to placate men, uphold and buy into religious dogma, misogyny about purity culture and religious belief and yada yada yada. And they all think they're going to end up being the wives in The Handmaid's Tale. Like they're suddenly going to be the exception to the way women are going to be treated by these men. And like Serena Joy, at the end of the day, they will learn that no, they are not going to be treated any differently in the end because they are still a woman. Like, the pick-me philosophy is, if I just buy into this, play into it, and be the good doting wife I'm supposed to be, I will be treated different. No, you won't. Because men are still going to be men, and they will still always view you as a woman. And in their eyes, you are a service provider. You are not a person. Their ideas of femininity are also just rooted in misogyny. Purity culture, clean girl aesthetic, the natural look, being a submissive stay-at-home mom being the peak vision of what a woman should want. All of these standards created by men, for women, for men. They'll dress it up and call it embracing femininity when really all it is becoming a caricature of a woman drawn by a man. And it's always funny how they never notice until it's too late.
A lot of conservative pick-me's will not abandon their ideology until it affects them. And the perfect example of this, although fictional, is Serena Joy from The Handmaid's Tale. Basically, her character is the epitome of the ultimate pick-me. Serena Joy is married to Fred Waterford, one of the fascist commanders in the country of Gilead. And Serena actually helped him write the laws for this country which oppress women. It's clear Serena thought these laws would not ever affect her. She was shown as being abusive towards our main character, June, otherwise known as Offred. Due to her husband's powerful position, she is in the most powerful place that a woman can be in Gilead, a commander's wife. First glimpse we have that Serena thinks she is the special exception to women's oppression in Gilead is when she attempts to get the law changed to allow women to read the Bible. Now keep in mind, Serena helped write the law that prohibits women from learning how to read. She goes up to her husband and other commanders and starts reading the Bible in front of them. Well, guess what? Serena was not the special exception. She later is beaten by her husband with a belt and then has her pinky cut off for reading the Bible in front of them. Where things really start to change once Serena gets pregnant, and then shortly after her getting pregnant, her husband Fred gets executed, which leaves Serena a widow. For a little bit, Serena still thinks that she is this special exception. As a reminder, single women are some of the most low-ranking people in this society. Serena still thinks that because she is a high-ranking woman that helped write the laws that oppressed her, that she will be the exception and that she will still get the privileges of being a married woman. She is sent to live with another high-ranking husband and wife while she is pregnant, and she thinks that they are just helping her out initially at first, but then she realizes that she has essentially become their handmaid. The only reason they are helping her is because they are interested in the child that she is carrying. And that once she has this child, they will take the child from her because, you know, single women are not fit to raise children. They need a husband and a wife together. After that point, Serena will most likely be discarded either to the colonies or become an actual handmaid. So at this point, this is when Serena realizes she is in actual danger and that the laws that she wrote to oppress her own women are actually affecting her. So then she runs to Canada to seek asylum. Because guess what? She doesn't want people to take her baby, even though she is directly responsible for babies being taken away from thousands of families. But she really never thought this would ever affect her. So after she seeks asylum in Canada, her baby does get temporarily taken away, but then she reunites with the baby. And basically she's on the run from that point. This is when everything becomes full circle, and now instead of Serena abusing Offred / June, it comes to June begging for help because she doesn't want people to take her baby. And she's like, how did you do it? How did you live with people wanting to take your baby all the time? That's when June is a badass bitch and she really doesn't give Serena like any sympathy. But yeah, that's kind of where we are in the Handmaid's Tale story. I imagine we will see what will happen with Serena and her baby now. But yeah, this is the story of Serena Joy, the ultimate pick-me that got humbled and cried when things actually started to affect her.
All I have to say about Serena Joy is she's a really great example of what false allyship looks like. And she is the embodiment of what a lot of liberal women, especially liberal white women in America, represent and how they function. June put it so eloquently in episode 6 when she said, you don't want to destroy Gilead, you just want to make it a little more comfortable for yourself. And whew, that hit home, didn't it? She honestly reminds me of Susan B. Anthony. That evil lady did everything she could to prevent black folks from voting, including black women. So it's interesting. Every election, they go put their I voted stickers on her tombstone, and they feel so much pride, and white women will reference her with emotions and how she fought for their right to vote, for women. And it's like, asterisk, bruh. No, she did not do that for all women, just your type of woman. Has she grown as a person? Yes. Has her very complex and twisted relationship with June improved? Yes. Does she make an effort herself to be there for June, especially in this episode, by shielding her and putting herself and her own freedom and life at risk by protecting and hiding what she describes as a fugitive? Sure. Does any of that matter in the bigger picture? No. The micro doesn't matter when the macro goes unacknowledged. She's fine with having her own little corner within Gilead where she is still privileged and comfortable and gets her one or two few things that she wanted in exchange for agreeing to this whole Gilead shebang to begin with. Y'all gotta remember, this woman was one of the major architects of Gilead. Back in the earlier seasons when they would show those flashbacks, it was her writing up everything. Fred Waterford was only in those boardrooms and was only a commander because of her brain that she wrote down onto paper and sent him into those meetings to speak on her behalf because she wasn't allowed in there. And she was fine with all of that because she thought in exchange she would get a very happy, cushy, romantic, loving life with her husband and her child. And when she didn't get that, she has spent this entire series fighting tooth and nail to get what she wants. Cutting off her finger and sustaining trauma of imprisonment and sustaining trauma of, the horrible things her husband did to her. All of that did cause a little bit of a character development. But guess what? In the grand scheme of liberation and revolution, that's not enough. And it is completely understandable why more radical activists and revolutionaries don't want to align themselves with people that have not fully divested from the system. It simply isn't enough to help one or two people that you come across. It's simply not enough to push a couple of policies that benefit you and your group only. I'm going to be honest, I haven't been as emotionally engaged this entire season. It's falling flat for me, but what I will say I appreciate what this show is doing is what it always does, is offer us a look and analysis, or looking at like the anatomy of a revolution and looking at the different ways that different types of people approach calls for liberation. And you have people who are going to just look at laws and policy and slow and steady progress. Meanwhile, people are being violated and violently harmed today, right now, who don't want to wait till tomorrow. But because they're comfortable within the system and they directly benefit from the system, there's no sense of urgency for them. And there's even more so not enough as incentive for them to destroy the system completely and to break it down. Like June said, she just wants to tweak it to make it work for herself, but she's not really committed to anything beyond that. And because of that, she inherently is not a good person. Sorry. I don't care how much she's grown. She sucks. She still sucks. She's always going to suck. And I have honestly been really annoyed watching 6 episodes up until this point of her just getting everything that she wants. And I am praying that before this show ends, that the rug is torn and pulled up from underneath her and she finally gets her due. She finally gets her just pay. But it might not happen because you know what? That doesn't really happen in the real world often. And so maybe the writers are leading us in the direction of, you know, reflecting our real reality. Was that a lot of the times the good guys don't win. We'll see, y'all. What do you guys think of Serena in this season and her character arc through the whole series?
So this is love.
So a while back, I saw a video from a content creator who was basically promoting the trad wife lifestyle. And as is typical with a lot of trad wives, I don't know about this account that I've stitched in particular, but a lot of them who monetize their position, who use their position to be influencers, will severely denigrate women who choose any other lifestyle other than trad wife. So even if they're married but they choose to work, you know, if they only get to be stay-at-home moms for a little tiny while and then they've got to go back to work, all of these things. And I was going to stitch her account because she had made this video all about how she was raising her daughter to be a trad wife, how she was teaching her daughter the most important thing in life is to serve your husband and serve God and serve your children in the home. Nothing about developing her daughter's own interests in life and really like pushing her daughter to be whatever she wanted to be. Her main goal was to teach her daughter that she was on this earth to serve those around her. Now, content like that usually borders on like rage farming because they know that so many people will disagree with it. It's so contentious. And the reason that we disagree with it is not because we disagree with the principle of staying at home and being, you know, a traditional wife and mother, whatever the fuck that means. It's because of cases like this woman that I have stitched, unfortunately, who make this informal contract with their partners before they enter the formal contract. And that informal contract says, you know, you stay at home, you look after the kids, you look after the house, you look after me, I will look after you, I will protect you for the rest of your life. That's the quid pro quo on that. And these women enter into marriage, and most of the time they don't do it with a prenup or any sort of protection for their financial future should anything happen in the relationship. No protections for their children either. Nothing basically in writing to say our informal agreement was that you were going to take care of me and our children for the rest of our lives. And if you look in the comment section, there are so many women who have been duped by this way of life, who have believed the promises that their partners have said, popped out multiple children, and then once their partner decides that they're going to go with someone else, probably because the wives are exhausted by what being a trad wife actually means and how much of yourself you have to give away for basically nothing in return. Then once they're tired from that, they're like, oh, you know, younger model or someone else. And these women are left with nothing because they didn't protect their position before they entered into the marriage contract. And as many women are attesting to in the comments, even if you have been married, yeah, okay, you might get a little bit of alimony and you might get a little bit of child support. I watched a divorce attorney on here talking about this very concept and talking about why it's so important for women to really protect themselves when they're going into a trad wife situation, because of how little they get and how little the courts will respect that they were a stay-at-home mum for however many years. And in fact, most of the time, if they haven't been working, it can go against them. If they were able to work and they chose not to, it can be used against you. So unless you've got an ironclad legal agreement that has been notarized, that lays out what your protections are going to be when you get married, such as he will pay a certain amount to you each month that is separate from the finances. If the marriage breaks up, this will be the agreement that you have financially to make sure that you're protected. You'll be fucked. And you'll be dealing with a broken heart, yes, but you'll also have all the stress that comes with not being able to provide for yourself or your children in any meaningful way because you chose not to have a career, you didn't get any protections in place for you and your children, and, you know, you might not be able to afford to live in the house. He might want to sell it, and, you know, you might not be able to get an order that says he can't do that until, you know, the kids are 18 or whatever. These things happen. And I feel like so many of these women naively enter into these marriage contracts without due diligence because they're not seeing it as a financial contract or a legal contract or anything like that. They're seeing it as a promise to this man, and they're upholding their promise only to have that thrown back in their face. And the funny thing is, there's not that much difference between the sprinkle ladies and the trad wife women. The only difference is that I think the men who are with the sprinkle women respect them a lot more, because they know these women aren't going to stick around for anything. Like, they expect to be kept like princesses. So these men still do all the things that, you know, the trad husbands do. They're still the breadwinners. They're still looking after the, you know, the wife and the kids at home. But the underlying premise is totally different, because it's the woman who has the power, really. Whereas I think in a lot of trad wife setups, the man doesn't respect the wife, like, fundamentally, because if you put yourself in a position where you are saying, I am serving you, like, I am here to serve you, there's always going to be a power imbalance there. And eventually a lot of these men go, well, I don't respect a woman who's underneath me because she's underneath me. So they'll either go, if youth and beauty and looks and all of that stuff is the most important thing to them, then they'll move on to someone younger. If they want a challenge, then they'll move on to a woman who challenges them and puts them in the place, which is likely to be like the sprinkle ladies. So I guess the takeaway from this is, don't be a trad wife, be a sprinkle lady. But if you are going to be a trad wife, get a prenup if you're in America. I don't know how it would work in the UK. In the UK, maybe try and get some private legal document, because even if it's unenforceable, at least it will show where the intent was, and maybe when it comes to things like child support, you will have a better standing there for your own protections. But please, I would just advise all women, like, I know it sounds like the holy grail to just live the soft life and have someone look after you, but really the trad wife life is not the soft life, because you're left with all the domestic labour, all the pastoral care. You're not allowed to advance yourself within that model in terms of like any career or anything like that. You are 100% dependent on that man. And yes, it may be the case that he never gives you, you know, cause for concern or whatever. But as we're seeing in the comments of this section, of this video, so many women get taken in by the lie that they will be taken care of by their men, by their traditional husbands. And then as soon as they're ready to move on, those protections are nowhere to be found.